At 92 years old, Mae Henderson was ready to give up. The woman who had spent decades tending her garden, baking pies for church socials, and chasing grandchildren around her yard could barely get out of bed. Her back pain had become so severe that simple tasks like reaching for a coffee cup sent waves of agony through her spine. But what happened next defied everything doctors had told her about aging and chronic pain. 3 months ago, Mae couldn't walk to her mailbox without wincing. Today she's back in her garden, digging in the soil with the energy of someone half her age. She didn't visit a single doctor. She didn't take a single prescription pill. Instead, she unlocked something that had been hiding in plain sight her entire life. If you're watching this and you've been told that back pain is just part of getting older, you need to hear Mae's story. Because what she discovered isn't just changing her life, it's giving hope to folks who thought they'd never be pain-free again. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, because what I'm about to share with you could change everything you thought you knew about natural healing. Mae Henderson wasn't always dealing with back pain. For most of her life, she was what folks in her small Tennessee town called tough as nails. She raised 4 children, worked alongside her husband on their farm, and never missed a Sunday service. When her husband passed 10 years ago, Mae kept going. She maintained her independence, her garden, and her weekly visits to check on elderly neighbors who were ironically younger than her. But 6 months ago, something changed. It started as a dull ache in her lower back after she spent an afternoon canning peaches. She dismissed it. After all, she'd worked harder days than that without complaint. But the ache didn't go away. It grew stronger, sharper, more demanding of her attention. Within weeks, the pain had taken over her life. Getting dressed in the morning became a 30-minute ordeal. Cooking, something she'd done with joy for decades, now left her gripping the counter and fighting back tears. Her beloved garden, the place where she felt closest to God and her memories, became unreachable territory. The worst part wasn't the physical pain, it was the fear. Mae had watched too many friends disappear into nursing homes, their independence stripped away one limitation at a time. She refused to become another statistic, another elderly person who'd given up on really living. That's when the memory came, flooding back. Mae was sitting in her kitchen chair, the same one where she'd fed babies and helped with homework, when she closed her eyes and saw herself as a 7-year-old girl. She was standing in her great-grandmother's kitchen, watching Mama Rose prepare something special for Old Man Johnson, who'd hurt his back working in the tobacco fields. Mama Rose had hands that seemed to heal whatever they touched. Neighbors, from 3 counties over, would make the journey to her little cabin, carrying their pain and their hope in equal measure. Mae remembered the smell that would fill the kitchen, earthy, warm, and somehow comforting, even before you tasted whatever Mama Rose was brewing. Child, Mama Rose would say in her gentle voice, "The good Lord put everything we need right here in His creation. We just got to know how to listen." Mae had been too young to understand the significance then. She thought every grandmother could make pain disappear with herbs from the backyard. It wasn't until decades later, sitting in her own kitchen and fighting her own battle with pain, that she realized she'd witnessed something extraordinary. Mama Rose had died when Mae was 12, taking her knowledge with her, or so Mae had thought. But sitting there in that chair, desperate and running out of options, the memories began to surface like photographs developing in a darkroom. She remembered the 3 jars Mama Rose always reached for. She remembered the careful way her great-grandmother measured each ingredient, not with spoons or cups, but with the wisdom of someone who'd made this recipe hundreds of times. She remembered the color of the tea, the way steam would curl up from the cup, and most importantly, she remembered how people walked differently when they left Mama Rose's kitchen. For the first time in months, Mae felt something other than despair. She felt curiosity, but there was a problem. Mama Rose had never written anything down. She'd passed her knowledge through demonstration and intuition, the way mountain people had done for generations. Mae would have to become a detective in her own family history, piecing together fragments of memory and hope. That night, Mae made a decision that would change everything. She was going to recreate Mama Rose's remedy, even if it took everything she had left. Mae's quest began the next morning, despite the pain that shot through her back as she moved around her kitchen. She started by clearing space on her counter, the same counter where she'd learned to cook by watching her mother and grandmother. This felt different, though. This was about more than following a recipe. This was about reconnecting with a wisdom that had nearly been lost. The first challenge was identifying the ingredients. Mae closed her eyes and tried to transport herself back to that 7-year-old girl, standing on a wooden stool, watching Mama Rose's weathered hands move with purpose. She remembered 3 distinct smells, 3 different textures, 3 separate jars with handwritten labels she couldn't read at the time. The first memory that came back was the golden powder. Mama Rose would take a pinch and rub it between her fingers, releasing an earthy, slightly bitter aroma that seemed to clear the air itself. Mae had seen that same golden color in her own spice cabinet, turmeric. Her grandmother had used it in cooking, but Mae began to suspect it served a different purpose in Mama Rose's healing practice. The second ingredient took longer to identify. Mae remembered Mama Rose grating something fresh, something that made her eyes water slightly, but in a good way, like when you breathe in sharp winter air. It was ginger root. Mae could practically see Mama Rose's knife work, creating thin slices that would steep into something powerful. The third ingredient was the trickiest. Mae remembered leaves, but not just any leaves. These were darker, more substantial than the herbs that grew wild around the property. Then it hit her. Bay leaves. Not the decorative kind people put in stews, but the real bay leaves that Mama Rose would dry herself, hanging them in bundles from her kitchen ceiling. With her 3 ingredients identified, Mae faced the real challenge, getting the proportions right. Mama Rose had never measured anything. She'd worked by instinct, by generations of knowledge that flowed through her hands without conscious thought. Mae started with what felt right: a teaspoon of turmeric, a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger, and 3 bay leaves. She boiled water in the same kettle her mother had given her as a wedding gift, and as the steam rose, she felt connected to something larger than herself. The first batch was too weak. She could taste the individual ingredients, but they hadn't married together the way she remembered. The second batch was too strong, bitter in a way that made her wince. But Mae was nothing if not persistent. She'd raised 4 children and buried a husband. She wasn't going to be defeated by a tea recipe. On the 3rd day, something changed. Mae had been adjusting the steeping time, letting the ingredients get to know each other in the hot water for longer than she'd initially tried. When she took her first sip of that 3rd batch, her body seemed to recognize something familiar. The taste was warm, complex, earthy in a way that reminded her of rich soil after rain. More importantly, within an hour of drinking that cup, Mae noticed something she'd almost forgotten was possible. She stood up from her chair without wincing. It wasn't dramatic. There was no miraculous moment where all pain disappeared. Instead, it was subtle, like turning down the volume on a radio that had been playing too loud for months. The constant background noise of pain that had been governing every movement, every decision, every breath, had quieted just enough for Mae to remember what normal felt like. Over the next week, Mae refined the recipe further. She discovered that drinking the tea twice a day, once in the morning and once before bed, seemed to work better than random timing. She learned that crushing the bay leaves slightly before steeping released more of their essence. She found that adding a small amount of raw honey not only improved the taste, but seemed to help her body absorb the benefits more effectively. But the real breakthrough came when Mae's neighbor, Dorothy, stopped by for their usual Tuesday visit. Dorothy had been Mae's friend for 40 years, and she immediately noticed the change. "Mae Henderson, what in the world has gotten into you?" Dorothy asked, watching Mae move around her kitchen with an ease that had been missing for months. "You're walking like you did before all this back trouble started." Mae hadn't even realized how much her posture had improved. She'd been so focused on the absence of sharp pain that she'd missed the return of fluid movement. When she looked in the hallway mirror later that day, she saw a woman standing straighter, moving with confidence instead of fear. Word spread the way it does in small communities. Within 2 weeks, Mae had 3 neighbors asking about her miracle tea. She was hesitant at first. Who was she to play doctor? But then she remembered Mama Rose never claimed to be anything more than a woman who paid attention to what worked. When Mae's friend Harold came by, barely able to walk after throwing out his back moving hay bales, she decided to share what she'd learned. Harold was skeptical. He was the type who'd rather suffer in silence than admit he needed help. But desperation makes believers of us all. 3 days later, Harold called Mae to ask for more tea. His voice sounded different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. That's when Mae began to understand that what she'd rediscovered wasn't just helping her. It was something bigger, something that had been waiting to help anyone brave enough to trust in the wisdom of those who came before. Thus, after weeks of testing and refining, Mae had perfected what she came to call Mama Rose's Freedom Tea. The name came to her one morning as she stood in her garden, pulling weeds without the usual accompaniment of back pain. Freedom. That's what this tea had given her. Freedom from pain, freedom from fear, freedom from the limitations that had been slowly stealing her life away. Let me share with you exactly how Mae prepares this ancestral remedy, because every detail matters when you're dealing with something this powerful. The foundation of the tea is turmeric, but not just any turmeric. Mae learned that the quality and preparation of this golden root makes all the difference. You'll need 1 level teaspoon of high-quality turmeric powder, the kind that stains your fingers bright yellow and has a slightly peppery bite when you taste it alone. Why turmeric works is something both Mama Rose's intuition and modern understanding agree on. This golden root contains something called curcumin, a natural compound that fights inflammation in your body the way rain settles dust in the air. For generations, mountain people knew that turmeric could calm angry, swollen tissue long before scientists had names for why it worked. But here's what Mae discovered that makes all the difference. You can't just dump turmeric powder into hot water and expect miracles. First, you need to create what Mae calls a golden paste. Take your teaspoon of turmeric and mix it with just enough warm water to create a smooth paste, about a tablespoon of water. Mix this thoroughly until there are no lumps. This step helps your body absorb the turmeric more effectively, like preparing soil before planting seeds. The second ingredient is fresh ginger root, and Mae insists this must be fresh, not powdered. You'll need a piece about the size of your thumb, peeled and sliced thin. Don't worry about perfect knife work. Mama Rose certainly didn't have fancy kitchen tools. Just slice it thin enough that each piece is no thicker than a coin. Ginger works like a key that unlocks your body's ability to heal itself. It increases circulation, bringing healing blood flow to injured areas of your back. Mountain folk used to say that ginger wakes up the blood, and they weren't wrong. When your circulation improves, your body can deliver the nutrients and oxygen needed to repair damaged tissue while carrying away the waste products that contribute to pain and stiffness. Mae discovered that crushing the ginger slices slightly with the flat side of a knife releases more of the beneficial oils. Don't mash them completely, just press down firmly enough to break the surface. You'll know you've done it right when you can smell the sharp, clean scent of fresh ginger filling your kitchen. The third ingredient is what Mae considers the secret weapon: whole bay leaves. You'll need 3 fresh bay leaves, or 4 if they're dried. These aren't the bay leaves you might throw into a soup and fish out later. These leaves are going to release compounds that work directly on muscle tension and nerve pain. Bay leaves contain natural oils that act as gentle muscle relaxants. When your back muscles are tight and knotted from pain, bay leaves help them. Remember how to let go. Mama Rose used to say that bay leaves teach your muscles how to rest, and Mae has found this to be remarkably accurate. The key with bay leaves is to tear them slightly before adding them to your tea. Don't shred them completely. Just tear each leaf in half to release the oils inside. You'll notice the difference immediately. The aroma that rises from torn bay leaves is deeper, more complex than whole leaves. Now, here's how Mae prepares her freedom tea step by step. Start with 2 cups of filtered water in a medium saucepan. Mae uses her grandmother's old pot, but any saucepan will work. Bring the water to a rolling boil. While the water is heating, prepare your turmeric paste as described earlier. Set this aside. Add your sliced and crushed ginger to the boiling water first. Let it boil for 3 minutes. This draws out the active compounds and mellows the sharp bite of raw ginger. After 3 minutes, reduce the heat to low and add your torn bay leaves. Simmer for another 2 minutes. The kitchen should smell like healing itself, earthy, warm, and somehow comforting. Remove the pot from heat and immediately whisk in your turmeric paste. Whisk thoroughly to prevent clumps and ensure even distribution. The liquid should turn a beautiful golden color, like liquid sunshine. Cover the pot and let it steep for 10 minutes. This steeping time is crucial. It's when all the ingredients marry together and become something greater than their individual parts. Strain the tea through a fine mesh strainer into your cup. Mae likes to press the ginger slices gently with the back of a spoon to extract every bit of goodness before discarding them. Finally, add 1 teaspoon of raw, unfiltered honey while the tea is still hot. The honey isn't just for taste. It helps your body absorb the beneficial compounds more effectively. Raw honey also has its own anti-inflammatory properties that complement the other ingredients. Mae drinks this tea twice daily, once in the morning on an empty stomach and once 2 hours after dinner. She's discovered that consistency matters more than timing. Your body learns to expect and utilize this natural medicine when you take it regularly. For those dealing with acute pain flare-ups, Mae has found that adding a thin slice of fresh lemon and a pinch of black pepper can intensify the effects. The lemon provides vitamin C to support healing, while black pepper contains piperine, which significantly increases your body's ability to absorb turmeric. Mae also discovered that this tea works beautifully with other natural remedies. She sometimes adds a few drops of apple cider vinegar for extra anti-inflammatory power, or includes a small piece of cinnamon bark for circulation support. The beauty of this ancestral approach is that it works with your body's natural healing systems rather than against them. What makes Mae's Freedom Tea different from just taking turmeric supplements or drinking ginger tea is the synergy between all 3 ingredients. They work together like members of a choir, each voice supporting and enhancing the others to create something more beautiful and powerful than any could achieve alone. But the most important ingredient, Mae insists, is intention. When she prepares her tea each morning and evening, she takes a moment to think about Mama Rose, about the generations of women who kept this knowledge alive, and about her own gratitude for another day of movement without pain. 6 months have passed since Mae first recreated Mama Rose's Freedom Tea, and the transformation goes far beyond just pain relief. Mae recently celebrated her 93rd birthday, and instead of the quiet, careful celebration she'd been anticipating, she hosted a garden party for 30 people. She spent the morning of her birthday on her hands and knees, planting new tomato seedlings, and pulling weeds with the enthusiasm of someone decades younger. The physical changes are obvious to anyone who knows Mae. She stands straighter now, moves with confidence, and has reclaimed activities she thought were gone forever. Last month, she volunteered to help reorganize the church library, a project that involved hours of lifting, sorting, and climbing stepladders. 6 months ago, even thinking about such a task would have sent shooting pains through her back. But the deeper transformation is in Mae's spirit. She talks about feeling like herself again, about waking up in the morning with anticipation instead of dread, the constant mental energy that pain demanded, the careful planning of every movement, the fear of triggering a flare-up, the gradual shrinking of her world. All of that has been replaced by a sense of possibility that she thought belonged only to her younger years. Mae's success has rippled through her community in ways she never expected. Harold, her skeptical neighbor, has become one of the tea's most vocal advocates. His back injury from moving hay bales had been bothering him for 2 years before he tried Mae's remedy. Within a week of drinking the Freedom Tea twice daily, he was back to full farm work. Harold now keeps a batch of the tea prepared at all times and has shared the recipe with his adult children who live in distant cities. Dorothy, Mae's longtime friend, had been dealing with chronic lower back pain that made her weekly grocery shopping trips an ordeal. She started drinking the tea 3 weeks ago and called Mae yesterday to report that she'd not only completed her shopping without pain, but had also volunteered to help another elderly neighbor with her groceries. I felt strong enough to help. Someone else, Dorothy told Mae with tears in her voice. I haven't felt that capable in years. The local pharmacist, Mr. Peterson, mentioned to Mae that he's noticed several regular customers haven't been picking up their usual pain medications as frequently. While he was initially concerned about people skipping prescribed treatments, conversations with these customers revealed they were finding relief through natural methods and working with their doctors to reduce their dependence on pharmaceuticals. Mae has been careful to encourage people to work with their healthcare providers, but she's also witnessed firsthand how this simple, natural approach can complement and sometimes reduce the need for more aggressive treatments. She's particularly moved by the stories of people who were facing surgery recommendations and found enough relief through the Freedom Tea to postpone or avoid invasive procedures altogether. What Mae finds most rewarding is how this rediscovery has connected her with something larger than her individual healing. She's realized that Mama Rose wasn't just treating back pain, she was preserving and sharing wisdom that connected people to their own healing power. When Mae teaches someone to prepare the Freedom Tea, she's not just sharing a recipe. She's passing on confidence, hope, and the understanding that we don't have to be helpless in the face of pain. The knowledge that nearly died with Mama Rose has found new life through Mae's determination and the willingness of people to trust in time-tested wisdom. Mae often reflects on how close this remedy came to being lost forever. If her pain hadn't become desperate enough to force her to reach into those childhood memories, if she hadn't been brave enough to experiment with half-remembered fragments, this healing knowledge might have remained buried. Mae's story demonstrates something profound about aging and pain that goes against everything our culture tells us. We're taught that pain is inevitable as we get older, that independence must gradually be surrendered, that the best we can hope for is management rather than genuine healing. Mae's transformation challenges all of these assumptions. At 93, Mae embodies a different vision of aging, one where wisdom and experience combine with natural healing to create not just pain relief, but genuine vitality. She represents the possibility that our later years can be a time of continued growth, contribution, and joy rather than slow decline. The Freedom Tea has given Mae more than physical comfort. It's restored her sense of agency, her connection to ancestral wisdom, and her role as someone who can offer genuine help to others. She's become a bridge between the traditional knowledge of her great-grandmother's generation and the needs of people today who are searching for alternatives to purely pharmaceutical approaches to pain management. Mae's legacy extends beyond the individuals she's helped directly. She's demonstrated that healing wisdom exists within our own families and communities, waiting to be rediscovered by those brave enough to look beyond conventional solutions. She's shown that sometimes the most powerful medicine comes not from laboratories or pharmacies, but from the accumulated experience of generations who learn to work with nature rather than against it. Every morning when Mae prepares her Freedom Tea, she thinks about the chain of knowledge that brought this remedy to her, from Mama Rose's healing hands through decades of nearly forgotten memory to her own kitchen counter. And every evening when she drinks her second cup, she thinks about the people who will benefit from this wisdom tomorrow, next week, and in years to come. Mae Henderson didn't just heal her back pain, she reclaimed a piece of healing heritage that belongs to all of us, proving that sometimes the most profound solutions are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with enough courage and determination to remember what we've forgotten. If Mae's story has touched your heart and given you hope for your own healing journey, I want to ask you to do something important. Hit that subscribe button right now, not just for more videos like this one, but because you're joining a community of people who believe in the power of natural healing and ancestral wisdom. Give this video a thumbs up if Mae's transformation inspired you, because it helps us reach more people who are suffering in silence, thinking they have no options left. And here's what I really want you to do. Drop a comment below and tell us about your own experience with back pain or natural remedies. Share what you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, or even just let us know that you're ready to try Mae's Freedom Tea. Your story matters, and you never know who might read your comment and find exactly the hope they needed to take. Their first step toward healing. We're building something special here, a place where real solutions and real stories come together to change lives. Don't just watch from the sidelines. Be part of the healing.